What if the homeless man you rescued in the rain was secretly one of the most powerful billionaires in the city? And what if bringing him into your tiny apartment sparked a love strong enough to shake corporate empires, trigger a hostile takeover, and put everything you own at risk? Tonight's story begins in a dark alley with blood on his sleeve, and ends in a boardroom where billions hang in the balance. But here's the twist. When the world tried to break him, he chose her. And together, they changed everything. Stay with me, because this is not just a love story. It is proof that kindness can rewrite destiny. Don't forget like, subscribe, and comments. I found him behind the bakery, where the streetlight flickered like a tired star. Rain soaked his shirt. Blood darkened his sleeve. His golden eyes lifted to mine. Calm. Proud. Wounded. Fear brushed my skin first. Cold air. Wet pavement. The sharp scent of iron. Then something deeper. Recognition. He looked like a man who once commanded rooms, now leaning against brick, as if the world had quietly stripped him bare. "Let me help," I said. My apartment smelled of cinnamon and old books. Too small for secrets. Too honest for lies. He sat at my kitchen table, broad shoulders tense, watching me clean the cut on his arm. His breath slowed. When my fingers touched his skin, no flinch, no complaint, only gratitude, heavy and unspoken. "My name is William," he said. His voice carried authority, softened by exhaustion. Days passed. He fixed the loose cabinet door, cooked breakfast with surprising grace, stood by the window at dawn, as if measuring the horizon. Peace settled between us, fragile, warm. Then the shock came. Black cars lined my street. Men in tailored coats stepped out, eyes sharp, voices urgent. "Sir, the board is waiting." "Sir." The word struck like thunder. I looked at him, really looked. The posture, the stillness, the power resting beneath restraint. Billionaire. The man the city whispered about. The empire hidden behind glass towers. Pain rose in my chest. Not from deceit, from distance. He crossed the room slowly, as if approaching something sacred. "I searched for quiet," he said. "I found you." No grand speech, no glittering promise, just truth. His hand reached for mine, steady, certain, as if choosing me over every polished skyline. Outside, engines hummed. Inside, my heart trembled. I felt the weight of his world pressing at my door, and the fragile strength of mine pressing back. He stepped closer, forehead resting against mine, breath warm, real. In that narrow space, between past and future, between wealth and want, I understood something fierce and tender. Love grows strongest where pride kneels, and two wounded souls decide to stand together. The men outside shifted impatiently, the empire calling him home. Yet he stayed, his fingers intertwined with mine, as though anchoring himself. And in his golden eyes, I saw no fortune, no empire, no power, only a man, choosing one small apartment, one quiet woman, one impossible love. And the door began to open, and the door began to open. Cold air slipped inside first, sharp, metallic, demanding. The men in dark coats filled the hallway, polished shoes, controlled faces. Power carried like a weapon. My tiny living room felt smaller. The cinnamon scent faded beneath expensive cologne and rain. "Mr. Ashford," one of them said quietly. Ashford. The name echoed in my chest. William's hand tightened around mine. Warm, steady, certain. "I asked for time," he answered. His voice changed. Still gentle, now edged with command. The men hesitated. I felt the tremor run through him. Not fear. Conflict. Two worlds pulling at the same soul. The shock settled deeper inside me. He belonged to skyscrapers and private jets, to headlines and negotiations, to a life louder than anything I had ever known. I belonged to early bus rides, discount groceries, secondhand books stacked by the window. The distance between us felt enormous. Yet he stepped closer, choosing my side of the room. "I built everything," he said softly, eyes on mine, "and it left me empty." Outside, engines idled like restless beasts. "I slept on cold pavement because silence felt honest," he continued. "Then you found me." His thumb brushed across my knuckles. Reverent. Grateful. "You saw a man, not a fortune." Pain rose behind my ribs. Tears burned, unwanted. "You should go," I whispered. The words tasted bitter. Necessary. Protective. His jaw tightened. For a moment, the billionaire returned. Power. Authority. Decision. Then it faded. He removed his watch. Platinum. Heavy. Immaculate. He placed it on my kitchen table beside the chipped ceramic bowl. "I choose this," he said. Not the empire. Not the board. Not the endless hunger of wealth. This, my uneven floors, my trembling hands, my small, stubborn heart. The men shifted again. Uneasy. Time pressed forward. I felt the weight of sacrifice forming in the air. Love asking for courage. His forehead touched mine once more. Breath mingling. Worlds colliding. "I am tired of being owned," he murmured. "I want to belong." The hallway lights flickered. Footsteps approached from the stairs. More voices. Louder now. Something was changing. Irreversible. His fingers laced through mine again. Stronger this time. As if preparing to face whatever storm waited beyond the narrow doorway. And I felt it. The moment before everything shifts. The moment when love demands more than comfort. And the men step forward again. And the men step forward again. Their presence swallowed the doorway. Dark coats. Impatient eyes. The scent of rain and leather thick in the air. "Sir, the shareholders are in emergency session." Emergency. The word thudded against my ribs. William's jaw flexed. A storm passed through his golden eyes. Not anger. Responsibility. I felt small beside it. Small and fiercely protective. This was his battlefield. Glass towers. Ruthless voices. Contracts signed in cold rooms. And here I stood. Barefoot. Heart exposed. Asking him to choose warmth over war. One man stepped inside without invitation. His gaze skimmed my worn sofa. My chipped paint. Me. Discomfort burned under my skin. William moved instantly, placing himself between us. "Outside," he said. No volume raised. No threat spoken. Yet the command carried weight. The man obeyed. Silence fell again. Heavy. Fragile. I could hear William's breathing. Measured now. Controlled. The billionaire resurfacing inch by inch. "They will tear everything apart if I do not return," he admitted. Everything. Thousands of workers. Families. Futures. An empire built from relentless nights. Pain tightened my throat. "I never wanted your world," I whispered. He cupped my face gently, his thumb warm against my cheek. "And I never wanted to lose myself inside it." The engines outside grew louder. Headlights flashed against my thin curtains. Time pressed harder. He bent his forehead to mine once more. A quiet vow passing between us without witnesses. "I leave to protect what I'd built," he said softly. "I return for what I love." Love. The word settled deep, steady, unshaken. His lips brushed my temple. Tender. Certain. Then he stepped back. The space between us felt unbearable, like winter rushing in. He picked up his watch from the table, hesitated, then placed it back down. A choice. He turned toward the door. The hallway swallowed him in polished shadows and expectation. I stood frozen, heart pounding, as the door remained slightly open, cold air curling around my ankles. And from the stairwell, a sudden shout echoed, sharp, urgent, followed by the unmistakable sound of something crashing below, and William's voice, strong, commanding, cut through the noise, as everything outside my fragile apartment shifted into chaos once more. Cut through the noise as everything outside my fragile apartment shifted into chaos once more. I rushed to the doorway. The stairwell smelled of dust and rain. Voices collided below. Sharp, urgent, controlled panic. William stood halfway down the stairs, shoulders squared, presence undeniable. Two men argued in low, heated tones. Words like acquisition, exposure, ruin. The air felt thinner. One of them grabbed his arm. The movement snapped something inside me. Do not touch him, I heard myself say. My voice shook, yet it carried. Every head turned. For a heartbeat, shame flushed through me. Who was I in this world of tailored power? Just a girl in worn socks, standing under flickering lights, defending a man who owned cities. William looked back at me, not embarrassed, not distant, proud. He gently removed the man's hand from his sleeve. Control restored with a single glance. This ends tonight, he said calmly. No more threats. No more pressure. But, sir, I decide. Silence followed. Heavy. Absolute. I felt the shift. The empire bending, not breaking. He climbed back up one step, closer to me. I built strength from nothing, he continued, eyes never leaving mine. I survived hunger, betrayal, loneliness. His voice softened. I refused to surrender peace. Peace. The word wrapped around my chest. Outside, one of the engines shut off. Then another. The tension loosened like a held breath finally released. The men exchanged looks. Uncertain now, William extended his hand toward me. Not as a billionaire. Not as a commander. As a man asking to stand beside someone. I stepped down one stair. Then another. My pulse roared in my ears. Fear and devotion woven together. Our fingers intertwined. Warm. Steady. Equal. He faced them again. I will attend the meeting, he said. On my terms. Murmurs rose. And she stands with me. Shock rippled through the stairwell. Through me. The thought of marble floors and flashing cameras struck hard. Bright lights. Judging eyes. Discomfort crawled across my skin, yet his grip anchored me. You deserve truth, he whispered. Truth. Not secrecy. Not shadows. The men slowly retreated down the stairs, strategy already forming in their expressions. William turned fully toward me. In his eyes, I saw no boardrooms, no skyscrapers, only resolve. We walk into the storm together, he said quietly. Together. The word felt vast. Below us, car doors opened again. The night waited, demanding, watching. He brushed a strand of hair from my face, tender despite the tension humming around us. Then we began descending the stairs side by side, each step echoing, each breath deepening, as the world outside prepared to test the fragile, powerful choice we had just made. And at the bottom of the stairwell, camera flashes suddenly exploded through the glass entrance door. White light blinding. Questions shouted. Our names already spreading through the dark like wildfire. our names already spreading through the dark like wildfire. Light burst through the glass doors. Blinding. Relentless. Questions hurled like stones. Mr. Ashford, where have you been? Is the merger collapsing? Who is she? Who is she? The word struck deeper than the rest. My hand trembled in his. Flashes painted the walls white. The old tiles beneath my feet felt unsteady. I smelled engine smoke, hot metal, expensive perfume. This world moved fast. Predatory. Hungry. William stepped slightly in front of me again. Instinct. Protection. Power. Then he paused. I felt the hesitation ripple through him. Slowly, deliberately, he moved back to my side. Not shielding. Standing with. Microphones stretched toward us like sharp branches. Cameras leaned closer. The night pulsed. Sir, is this a publicity stunt? His jaw tightened. No, he answered calmly. This is my life. The murmurs grew louder. He looked at me, golden eyes steady despite the storm. I was searching for something I could not buy, he continued. I found it in a small apartment above a bakery. Gasps. Whispers. Headlines forming in real time. Heat flooded my cheeks. Vulnerability pressed against my ribs. Thousands of invisible eyes measuring my worth. I almost stepped back. Almost let go. His fingers tightened gently, grounding me. She saw me when I had nothing, he said. She treated me with dignity when there was no advantage in doing so. Silence spread in fragile waves. For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. The confession hung in the cold air. Raw. Unpolished. True. A reporter pushed forward. Are you stepping down from the company? The question sliced through everything. William inhaled slowly. The weight of thousands of employees balanced against one fragile heartbeat. He turned to me. In that look I saw calculation and tenderness intertwined. Responsibility and longing colliding. I am stepping forward, he replied instead. Confusion rippled outward. I will rebuild the company without sacrificing my soul. The words carried steel. And she remains beside me. A new wave of flashes erupted. My discomfort sharpened into something else. Strength. The alley where I first saw him felt far away now. Yet I remembered the rain. The blood on his sleeve. The loneliness in his eyes. That man still stood beside me. Not the billionaire. The human. A black car door opened behind us. Security forming a path. William leaned close, his voice low enough for only me. This becomes harder before it becomes better. Honesty. No illusion. I am not afraid, I whispered, surprising myself. He searched my face. Not for perfection. For certainty. And he found it. Together we stepped forward into the flood of light. Into the roaring questions. Into the trembling unknown. As the doors of the waiting car closed behind us. And the engine surged. Carrying us toward a boardroom where decisions would shake empires. And where love would be tested in ways neither of us had yet imagined. Where love would be tested in ways neither of us had yet imagined. The car moved through the city like a dark current. Glass towers rose ahead, lit like watchful giants. My reflection trembled in the tinted window. William sat beside me, silent, not distant, focused. His hand rested over mine, thumb brushing slow circles against my skin. A quiet anchor in a roaring world. You still have time to turn back, he said softly. I looked at him. At the man who once leaned wounded against brick. At the strength wrapped in restraint. I walked down those stairs with you, I answered. I keep walking. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, gratitude, love deepening under pressure. The car stopped beneath a sweeping arch of steel and glass. The headquarters towered above us, sharp and gleaming. Power lived here. The doors opened. Cold night air rushed in, laced with perfume and ambition. Security formed a corridor. Marble floors waited beyond revolving doors. Each step echoed too loudly. My shoes felt thin against the polished ground. Eyes followed us from every corner. Inside the elevator, silence pressed close. Mirrored walls reflected 1,000 versions of us. Small apartment girl. Empire builder. William's shoulders squared as the numbers climbed. "This room decides futures," he said quietly, "but it no longer decides mine." The doors opened. A long table stretched beneath white lights. Men and women in tailored suits turned sharply. Shock rippled across practiced faces. "William," an older man said, tension hidden beneath civility, "you disappear for weeks and return with clarity." William interrupted calmly. He did not release my hand. A chair waited at the head of the table, authority carved into its design. He guided me beside it instead, not behind. Beside, murmurs spread like wine through dry leaves. "You risk billions for sentiment?" someone challenged. The word stung. William's gaze hardened. "I risk billions to protect integrity," he replied. "Profit without humanity corrodes everything." Silence thickened. He looked at me briefly, grounding himself. "I built this company from struggle," he continued. "I remember hunger. I remember being unseen." His voice carried across the table with controlled force. "We restructure. We protect workers. We eliminate predatory acquisitions." Gasps. Protests beginning. Change threatened comfort. A woman leaned forward. "And if the board votes against you?" The question hung like a blade. William stood taller. Not aggressive. Certain. "Then I buy back control." Shock exploded around the room. Power meeting power. My pulse raced, yet pride swelled stronger. He was no longer running from his empire. He was reshaping it. Voices rose. Arguments sparked. Through the chaos, his hand found mine again beneath the table. Warm. Steady. Chosen. The vote was called. Screens flickered alive. Numbers prepared to decide everything. The room fell into strained silence. Breaths held. Futures balancing on a digital count. And as the first votes began appearing on the screen, a sudden alert flashed red across every monitor, freezing the room, and changing the stakes entirely once more. Red letters pulsed across the screens. Unauthorized share transfer detected. Hostile acquisition in progress. A sharp wave of murmurs swept the room. Phones lit up. Assistants rushed to corners, whispering urgently. William's grip on my hand tightened. Not fear. Calculation. "Who initiated it?" he demanded. A tech officer near the wall swallowed hard. "Shell corporations. Offshore accounts. It was timed with a vote." Timed. A trap set to fracture his authority at the exact moment of reform. The older board member leaned back slowly. "This is what happens when leadership disappears." Blame floated heavy in the air. Heat rose in my chest. I felt the injustice of it. The cruelty of power games dressed as strategy. William released my hand only long enough to step forward. "Display the primary buyer," he ordered. The largest screen shifted. A familiar corporate insignia appeared. Steel gray. Aggressive lines. My breath caught. He exhaled once through his nose. Recognition clear. "They have wanted control for years," he said quietly. "They are offering a premium," someone countered. "Shareholders will accept." Profit again. Always profit. The red numbers continued climbing. Percentage ownership shifting in real time. I felt the room tilting toward surrender. William turned to me briefly, his golden eyes searching. Not for permission, for strength. "You trust me?" he asked under his breath. With everything, I answered. He nodded once. Then he faced the board. I prepared for this. The words sliced through the panic. Several heads snapped up. Before I stepped away, I created a contingency trust, he continued. Protected shares. Voting power triggered by hostile movement. Confusion flickered across faces. The tech officer typed rapidly. Another screen shifted. Blue overtook red. Gasps broke out. Impossible, someone whispered. William's voice remained calm. I stepped away to see clearly, not to surrender. The hostile percentage stalled, then began to drop. Phones buzzed frantically around the table. The older board member stared at him. You anticipated this? I anticipated greed, William replied. Silence fell again. Different now. Respect edged with caution. He walked back to his chair. To me, his hand reclaimed mine beneath the table. Warm, certain, grounded. I choose compassion and strength, he said to the room. They are not opposites. The final number stabilized. Control secured. Relief moved through the board like a quiet tide. Yet William did not smile. Because this victory carried consequence. Rivals exposed. Alliances fractured. War declared in subtler ways. He leaned toward me slightly. This is only the beginning, he murmured. I felt it too. The shift from survival to transformation. Around us, executives recalculated loyalties. The meeting adjourned in tense clusters of whispered strategy. But as we stood together beneath the sterile white lights, I sensed eyes watching from more than just inside that room. Forces unsettled by his refusal to bend. And as we stepped toward the glass doors overlooking the city, his phone vibrated again, a private number flashing across the screen. And when he answered, the voice on the other end spoke only one sentence. That made the color drain slowly from his face. That made the color drain slowly from his face. The room faded around us. Board members still murmured. Chairs scraped. Papers shuffled. None of it reached him. His jaw tightened. Eyes sharpened. Silence coiled in the space between heartbeats. Say that again, he said quietly. The voice on the other end continued. Calm. Measured. Merciless. I watched his fingers curl around the phone. Not rage. Restraint. When he finally lowered it, the city lights behind the glass seemed colder. What is it? I asked. He looked at me as if weighing how much truth to place in my hands. They purchased my debt markers from years ago, he said. The ones tied to the foundation projects. Understanding flickered slowly. The shelters, the housing initiatives, the hospitals in forgotten districts. They can freeze them, he continued. Shut down construction. Lay off workers. Destroy communities to pressure me. The cruelty of it stole my breath. Outside the glass, the city glittered, beautiful and indifferent. They want you to reverse the reforms, I said softly. He nodded once. A quiet war. No gunfire. Only leverage. Pain moved through his expression. Not for himself. For the people who trusted him. I stepped closer. You taught me something the night I found you, I said. His eyes searched mine. You said dignity matters more than pride. A faint flicker of recognition. They believe you care too much, I continued. They think compassion makes you weak. His breathing steadied. And they are wrong. The words settled firmly between us. He studied me for a long moment. Then something steadied in him. Resolve reborn. They underestimate partnership, he murmured. His phone buzzed again. Messages flooding in. Advisors recommending retreat. He silenced it. Call a press conference, he instructed his assistant across the room. Tonight. Shock rippled again. Tonight? She echoed. Transparency dismantles leverage, he said calmly. The decision hung powerful and irreversible. He turned fully toward me. This becomes public, he warned gently. Pressure, scrutiny, attacks. I am already here, I replied. No hesitation. His hand rose to my cheek. Warm, steady, grateful. The city lights shimmered behind him like distant stars. We protect the foundation by moving it independent of corporate control, he said, thinking aloud. Separate governance, community trustees, strategy unfolding, hope reassembling. Below us, traffic flowed unaware of the battle unfolding above. He drew a slow breath. They tried to corner me with fear, he said quietly. I respond with courage. Footsteps approached. Assistants moving quickly. Security repositioning. The press would gather within minutes. Cameras. Questions. Pressure. Yet the air between us felt clear. Uncomplicated. He rested his forehead briefly against mine. Whatever comes, he whispered. Together, I finished. His smile returned, small but certain. We stepped toward the corridor leading to the media hall. Lights already blazing at the far end. Voices rising beyond the doors. And as he reached for the handle, another message flashed across the large hallway screen. An emergency financial bulletin, announcing a second, far larger corporation entering the takeover battle, escalating everything beyond what either of us had prepared for. Escalating everything beyond what either of us had prepared for. The hallway seemed to narrow. Advisors froze mid-step. Security exchanged sharp looks. The bulletin glowed mercilessly across the screen. A global conglomerate. Twice the size. Twice as ruthless. They smelled blood. Someone muttered. William stood still, absorbing the scale of it. Not panic. Assessment. Two giants circling at once. They are coordinating, his chief strategist whispered. If they combine shares, they override your trust. The air felt electric against my skin. Outside the media hall, reporters gathered in swelling numbers. The storm waited. William's gaze moved to me. For a moment, the noise dissolved. Only us remained in that polished corridor. This is the cost of change, he said quietly. His voice carried neither regret nor doubt. They believe pressure fractures conviction. I felt fear rise again. Not for wealth. For the communities. For the workers. For him. They expect you to retreat, I said. A faint smile touched his mouth. Then we surprise them. He turned sharply to his strategist. Activate employee equity protocol. Shock rippled through the team. Sir, that dilutes board power significantly. Exactly. His eyes burned with focused intensity now. If ownership spreads to those who build the company, hostile control becomes impossible. A murmur of realization moved through them. You give the people the power, I breathed. He looked at me. They already earned it. Phones began ringing instantly. Legal teams mobilizing. Digital authorization sent at lightning speed. The red takeover percentages on the hallway screen hesitated. Numbers recalculating. The Giants had expected defense, not redistribution. William exhaled slowly. This becomes a company owned by its workers, he said, not predators. The weight of the decision echoed through marble and steel. It was bold, risky, revolutionary. The media doors opened slightly. Flashes burst through the gap. Time collapsed inward. He extended his hand to me once more. No empire between us. Only choice. We stepped into the blazing lights together. Voices roared. Are you losing control? Is bankruptcy possible? Who is funding the counterattack? William raised his hand. Silence gradually formed. They tried to divide power, he began steadily. I chose to share it. Confusion flickered across faces. This company now belongs to the people who built it. Gasps. Immediate headlines forming. Behind the cameras, phones buzzed violently. The takeover bulletin shifted again on the massive screen overhead. Percentages dropping. Control stabilizing. The second conglomerate hesitated. Strategy disrupted. William's voice softened. Strength without humanity destroys itself. He turned slightly toward me. And I refuse to build destruction. Applause began unexpectedly from the back. Then another voice. Then more. Momentum changed. Not just financial. Moral. Yet even as hope surged through the room, a new alert vibrated against his wrist. A private security notification. Warning of a sudden market suspension request filed against the company. An action that could freeze everything before the equity transfer completed. And the countdown clock for regulatory approval began ticking down on every visible screen, leaving only minutes before the entire strategy either secured their future or collapsed beyond recovery. The countdown burned across every screen. 3 minutes. 2. Voices blurred into a single rising wave of tension. Analysts whispering. Reporters speculating. Markets holding their breath. William stood unmoving beside me, not as a billionaire defending territory, as a man protecting people. The suspension request pulsed in red. If approved, the equity transfer would freeze. Power would return to the predators. 1 minute. His employees, thousands watching online, began posting messages across the live feed. We stand with you. We built this. We choose dignity. The word spread faster than fear. Regulators hesitated. Public sentiment surged. Transparency had done what secrecy never could. 10 seconds. I felt William's heartbeat steady beneath my hand. 5. The red alert flickered. 3. Then, green. Transfer complete. Ownership redistributed. The hostile percentages collapsed instantly. Applause erupted like a breaking dam. Not polished. Not rehearsed. Real. Some executives looked stunned. Others slowly began to nod. The giants had underestimated something simple. People. William closed his eyes for one brief second. Relief moved through him like sunlight after storm. When he looked at me, there was no empire in his gaze. Only gratitude. Later, long after the cameras left and the market stabilized, we returned to my small apartment above the bakery. The cinnamon scent greeted us again. Warm. Familiar. Honest. He removed his jacket. Set it aside. No marble. No headlines. Just 2 cups of tea steaming quietly on a worn wooden table. You changed everything, I whispered. He shook his head gently. You reminded me who I was before I had everything. Outside, the city continued its restless rhythm. Inside, peace settled softly between us. He had chosen courage over comfort, compassion over control, partnership over pride. And in doing so, he kept both his company and his soul. Love had not weakened him. It had clarified him. Because true strength does not dominate. It protects. True wealth does not accumulate. It uplifts. And true love does not ask us to shrink for it. It asks us to stand taller, together. William reached for my hand across the small table. No flashing lights now. No countdown clock. Only quiet certainty. The world would test us again. Power always does. But we had learned something unshakable. Kindness is never small. Integrity is never naive. And when love stands beside courage, even empires learn to kneel.